In this video, we're going to have a look at arithmetic and Boolean operators. So for your exam, you need to be able to know the different arithmetic operators, which include addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, modulus, division or integer division, and exponents or to the power of. You also need to know the different Boolean operators, which include equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and or and not. Now these are very, very common operators that you will come across nearly in every program that you will create from here on in, and it's there to help you make your programs more dynamic and just nicer to use and be able to make it less linear. So let's have a look at an arithmetic operator. So arithmetic operators can be used to manipulate your variables, whether they are strings, floats, characters, etc. So we already know that the plus operator, if it's used on a string, it means concatenation. It joins those two strings together. If it's used on any other data type that is a number, it will then perform arithmetic, like when you're doing like a maths lesson. Minus, times and divide will only work on numbers in Java, along with that plus operator, but that can also be used on strings. Now I'm not going to spend time going over plus, minus, times and divide. I think they are pretty much self-explanatory, and you can see an example at the bottom of plus being used there. But some more difficult operators might include modulus or integer division, which we may not be so familiar with. So I'm going to spend some time going over that today, and then we'll start looking at your Boolean operators as well. So here's two sets of code, and I know it looks a little bit overwhelming, but don't panic. That top chunk of code is in what we call OCR exam reference language, or pseudocode. So if you are sitting in an OCR examination, the code at the top half of the screen is what you would expect to see in an exam when they ask you a programming question, and you should be able to work out what that's doing. The bottom half of the screen shows the actual Java code. You can see there's a couple of similarities and quite a few differences. So for example, declaring the variable in pseudocode or OCR exam reference language, you can see it's dynamically typed. We don't require that the data type to be at the front. Second line, you can see that we've got our percent sign, which actually means mod in our program, but in OCR exam reference language, you just type the word. Same with div. Div does not have a special symbol for Java, so we use the math class math.floorDiv, and that will divide the two numbers and then round it down to the nearest whole number, and it will always round down to the floor. You see here they just use print, and then we've got our concatenation being used there, and here we've got our system.out.println, and then everything else works the same way. So as you can probably work out from this code, is that mod will divide the numbers and return the remainder. So if we look at the example of 7 and 3, 7 divided by 3, so 3 goes into 7 2 times, and it has 1 remaining. So that modulus would give that 1 that remains back. If we use our floor division or our integer division, we do 7 divided by 3, which would give me 2 point whatever, and then it rounds that down to 2. It doesn't matter, it doesn't work like normal rounding rules. Even if it was like 37.9, it would still round it down to 37. So let's have a go at this code, and we'll try and demystify any of the complications. So once again, I've set up my file. I've called it operators, and you can see that I am now ready to type. I'm just going to hide that sidebar so that we can have a little bit more room to code with. So let's use the example that we used on the slide. So I'm going to have an integer called num. I'm going to make it equal to 7. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the remainder by doing the num, or 7, mod by 3. I'm then going to find the whole number by making one called int whole equals, I'm going to do math dot, and then I'm going to use floor division, just like that, floor div, and I'm going to take in num, and I'm going to take in 3. So you can see I've just got my 1s because I've not used those yet. That's absolutely fine. So let's actually print out our examples. We're going to use our concatenation operator to help us do this. So system.out.println, and we're going to say 3 goes into 7, and then we can put plus whole plus times with plus remainder plus remaining. Now that is quite a complicated print statement. You can see it's wrapped onto the other line. Don't worry, it's absolutely fine. So what we're going to hopefully see is system.out.println 3 goes into 7 and then however many times with however many remaining. So if we click run, you see it'll do its little thinking, it'll compile and get ready to run. And there we go. 3 goes into 7 2 times with 1 remaining. So that is exactly right. Okay. If we change num to 6, for example, and what we'll do is we'll change that there as well in that print statement. We'll give that a run. And now we should get 3 goes into 6 2 times with no remaining. There we go. 3 goes into 6 2 times with 0 remaining. So exactly as predicted. So that is using your operators. And like I said, I'm not going to spend time going over plus, minus, times and divide. You can have a go at them yourselves. Do a bit of exploring. I would always encourage that when you're doing your programming. But the ones that people trip up on the most is modulus and integer division. So that's why I wanted to go over that. So the next thing that we're going to look at is Boolean operators. Now, Boolean operators came about from an English mathematician called George Boole, and they are used to assess data, which will come in handy in the next video when we start looking at sequence selection and iteration. So the operators that we need to know are, and I've tried to pair them up as best I can, equal to and not equal to, greater than and less than, and greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. They are the main operators, and then we have and, or, and not. And we can use and, or, and not to actually chain together these operators at the top. So, what type of data does a Boolean operator give us? Well, Boolean operators return a bool data type, which is just short for Boolean, which just means true or false. So we can use these to control loops or even to check if the user is doing what we want them to do. So for example, if we think about an advanced technique, if I am creating a stack and I want to see if my stack is full, I can say, right, is the size equal to the maximum size? If it is, then print the stack is full. If not, add a new item to the stack. So that's a way of using those Boolean operators. So let's show you how these actually work together, and we can go from there. So we're now back with our code from before. Now I've just commented out that earlier section, but now I've reinitialized two variables called num1 and num2. num1 is equal to 7 and num2 is equal to 4. So let's run through those Boolean operators and we can see what actually goes on. So we can say system.out.println, and this will just print out what we're doing all the time. And we'll put is 7 greater than 4. And what we can do here is, in these brackets, I'm just going to do 7 greater than 4. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to copy and paste this line and just change the statement ever so slightly each time. And you'll be able to see this. So we'll do less than 4 and we'll swap that round. So if we press play on this now, you should be able to see, is 7 greater than 4 true? Is 7 less than 4 false? So we'll just give it some time to run that code, and hopefully our predictions will be correct. Right, let's try this again. Sorry about that, that took a little bit longer. I think I just lost connection with Replit there. So there we go, you can see is 7 greater than 4 true? Is 7 less than 4 false? Right, let's try a different set now, and we'll say, whoops, and what we'll say is, we shall say, is 7 equal to 4, and we'll change that to our equal to. 2 equal signs means equal to. I always remember it as, if I've got 2 equals, it means equal to, okay? Be very literal. And we can say not equal to, and that's an exclamation mark and an equals. I always remember that as being like a stop sign or a hand up, and then with like a car being, with the equals being like a little car, it can't make it through. I was going to do greater than or equal to, but we might have to change our variables just to see how that works. So let's click run on this. We should be able to see how this differs ever so slightly. So you can see, is 7 equal to 4 false? Is 7 not equal to 4 true? Now what we could do, we can chain these even more. So we could say, right, is 7 greater than 4 and 4 is less than 5, and that would then be able to give us true or false as well, and we can chain them together, okay? But these are your basic operations being used here. So just quickly jumping back to the PowerPoint, and I'm just going to leave you with this challenge, and this challenge is going to be a little bit harder than it has been in the past. And all I want us to do is to see if you can get the user to enter a number, and then the program to tell them if it is odd or if it is even. Now this might be quite tricky. Think about how you could tell if a number is odd or even. Is it fully divisible by a certain number? Do we know any operations that we can use to check if a number has been fully divisible or not? Do we have any Boolean operators that can assess whether that is true or false? Do you maybe need to look into something extra like an if statement on how to actually assess that? These can all come in very, very handy. So that is a very quick lesson on operators, and they will crop up more in later videos as we go along. Next time we're going to look at sequence selection and iteration.